All right, welcome back. This is the sCAP course with Dr. VG, and I believe that we're going to be talking about moral influence this week. Let's see what there is to say. All right, welcome back. I'm glad to see you out there after we had our exciting week 4 on correlation. We're going to go ahead and move into our next course, which is our next course, but our next lesson, which is going to be week 5 and moral influence. So out here on our site, inside, go down to our course materials, and then we'll get through our syllabus down to moral influence, where we're going to go ahead and take a look at our outline for this week. Okay. Looking here at our outline, I see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 activities. We're going to be introducing the steps for critical analysis for moral influence, and so on and so forth. We'll be talking about, we're looking at morality, altruism, greed, those types of things there. All right, going back, look at our to-dos, and it follows the same general structure that we've been looking at before. We see a list of activities that we're actually going to be doing inside of our class this time, completing assignment 5, and then you're going to be moving into equilibrium next week. That's what we're going to be doing. I mean, it's really following the same progression that it has been all up until this point, so on and so forth. So now what we're actually going to be doing is talking about another type of critical analysis. Now we're looking at the emergence or the presence of moral influence inside of some of the scenarios that we might encounter in life. What are we actually talking about? Well, there are a number of things, definitions that we need to talk about, and I'll explain what I mean by moral influencers and how it might impact some of the thinking that we do regarding some of the things that we are exposed to. Okay, now first off, we're looking at 4 definitions that we're going to be talking about this week. It leads us into the rest of the concepts that we need to talk about. Idea. All right, so we're talking about an idea, a thought, a mental construct, something that's formed in our heads when we have thoughts. I mean, it's the very idea. I say very idea. Let me take a step back. Let me say it a different way. The very process of me forming this sentence right now is the result of a whole slew of ideas that I've had to form the words, the structures, to pick the verbs, to identify the nouns. If I'm rolling with prepositions, I feel like Schoolhouse Rock right now, naming all these things. But that's what it is. I mean, that's what we do. Our brains, we're idea generators. Okay? I mean, that's what an idea is. So, think about it. It's what we do. It's automatic. We have a thought, an idea forms. People can name it different ways, but we're still talking about the same thing. It really gets me sometimes, and some of my students in class, we'll talk about something, someone will stumble onto a different way of doing things, and I'll say, oh, that's a great idea. Or, man, that was a bad idea. Look, the reality is, they're ideas. Maybe it fits in a certain context and it's great. Maybe the color black would be or would be fine on a white background, but I don't know. Try not to put dark blue on a black background. that would not be sort of a good idea. I mean, but it's still an idea that you might have had that might work in other places. It just depends on the context. So ideas are what they are. It allows us to do and think and explore. It's everything, to be perfectly honest with you. Evidence, observable indication of something, allows something to be measured, so on and so forth. We have ideas. Some of those ideas might not be based in reality. All right? I mean, we see that all the time. We've experienced this in life forever. So there can be ideas that are out there that just don't make much sense. Evidence is what we use to back that up. You understand? I mean, so my idea might be that, I don't know. I'll walk out into the sun because I might have pale skin. I'll walk out into the sun. There's nothing going to happen to me today. Well, you know, the evidence says you will burn. I remember Marines out in 29 Palms. We went out there. Everybody thought that, I mean, when you're young and strong and Marines, warriors. I mean, you think nothing could touch you. Let me tell you something. The summer sun in the desert of 29 Palms will touch anybody it wants. That it will. It burned us asunder. It tore us up. People were rolling. We had to go. I mean, I remember we had to do some car wash we did for the officers club or something crazy like that. Yeah, half of us were going to the medics after that because Uncle Sam doesn't like Marines throwing away his resources. You understand what I'm saying? So that might not have been an idea backed up by the evidence. For the evidence says you walk outside and take off your shirt, okay, in the summer sun of a desert for 9 hours, something bad is going to happen to you. At least on Earth, that is, right? I mean, maybe go some other place that doesn't affect like that. That's evidence. Evidence kind of helps out those ideas. Belief, okay? I mean, a position that something is true, strongly held position. You could have some of that evidence and it builds into a belief. Now, I believe if you go out into the sun without a shirt on in the desert, you're going to burn up. That's a belief that I have based upon evidence. Evidence of what I've seen. So, I mean, you have faith, a form of belief which may or may not be accompanied by evidence. Okay? Well, you know, I mean, there's some people say I could be fine. I mean, look, I mean, I could go out there. So if I took off my shirt in a summer sun, I will, and I did burn. I just didn't burn the way other people did. So I have faith that I could do it, and I'll live through the day. I'm not going to have to go to the medics tomorrow afternoon. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be in a hospital. People are going to be trying to give me a bunch of remedial activities because I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing because my belief systems are all screwed up. I have that faith that might not be backed up, but I think I could pull it off. Yeah. I mean, that's where faith comes in. It gives you hope. Hope I'm not going to break my body. But nevertheless, I mean, that's what we're actually talking about there. So let's move on to the next slide here. And what we're actually doing, we're looking at an activity in your own words. Think about the terms. You're looking at section 4.2 as a group. Think about the terms as they're used both in formal and informal settings. We use these words all the time, right? Ideas, belief, evidence, right? Faith. I mean, that's just a part of our fabric. Okay, so I know you've encountered these terms. I know you've talked about them. You've made mention of them. You use them all the time. You see evidence. You see evidence of them all through life. So explore some of those things. You remember when you were introduced to the terms, maybe, I don't know. Was there ever a time when you thought you might have understood but realized it was slightly skewed? I mean, you've seen this particular activity before. So just have at it. And then we'll get back to it when you're done. So let's keep going with it. I mean, we're actually talking about, idea, evidence, belief, and faith, right? I mean, we have this all the time. So, right? Right now, so this is 2020, we have cars that are driving on the road without necessarily human control. So, I mean, an idea could be, I believe, or I'd say I have an idea that self-driving cars just might be good for the environment. Now, there might be many people who have such an idea. Self-driving cars might be good for the environment. Now, that's good enough for, that's good enough for somebody who might not understand how everything works. You just have this idea. I mean, what evidence do you have for this? Now, when you're starting to talk about evidence, it's always good to look for both the positive or pros and cons, all right? So, not existing in an echo chamber where all I ever find are things that support my argument. Now, we're not talking about that kind of bias. We're talking about building evidence so that you can actually make an informed decision. There might be things that back up your idea, might be things that are counter to it. So, in this particular instance, what are some of the pros that I find with that? Well, self-driving cars, there's less fatigue and accidents as a result of it. So, you have the cars doing the machines doing the job. They're doing the things that need to be done. They're not falling asleep behind the wheel. The cars they see the deer running across the street. I talked about that one of the last lessons we did. Stupid thing running across the street. Hopefully that car is paying attention to that, because if it was at night, I'm the kind of person that can't drive at night. I don't like driving at night. If there's a long road trip that I'm going to do with my family, that's what we've always done. We would leave at maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. I live in southern Wisconsin, so if we're going out east, we need about 2 hours to get to Chicago. Now, Chicago, right? Yeah, Chicago, congestion. That's crazy stuff. I'll talk about it in just a second, but I drive, so I don't drive well overnight. I leave 2 o'clock in the morning, gets to 4 o'clock. By the time I get there, about an hour and a half to get through Chicago. Now, it's daylight now. The sun's coming up. Thank goodness, right? That's how it is. The self-driving car, I don't have to worry about that. Maybe I could be sleeping in the back like the rest of my kids. They're just sleeping away. Wishing. I'm chugging down coffee. That's what I had to do. That's what Dad does. What else? What other pros you get with this? Maybe you have better fuel efficiency now that the machines are actually doing it. They're not jackrabbit, or what is that called? There's a jackrabbit starts when you just your dog take off from a stoplight like that. You get tickets doing that kind of thing. But nevertheless, machines aren't doing that kind of thing. They don't need to showboat. They don't need to demonstrate their engines. They know anybody riding one of those cars are saying, I'm carrying other people, so I can drive. What can you do, old car, besides sound loud? I don't know, maybe some people like loud sounding cars. Whatever, have your own thing. Perhaps it's good for the environment because we have that better fuel efficiency, right? And that's another pro. Less congestion. Why? Because the machines are doing stuff. They're not doing things and jamming on brakes, or when you have like the cars and you might have construction way up there, okay? Everybody's seen this. Some people, the nice people, the considerate people, they'll simply stack up, okay? They'll stack up in a line. But you have other people, now, maybe you knew this construction was out there, maybe you didn't know. But there are some people who will just zoom right by. So you might have 200 people stacked up in a queue in this line because we know the construction's coming up there. And you have these people just speed by, and then they're jammed right up there and try and weave into the traffic. So that makes everybody else slam on their brakes. So then the congestion, that's what happens. That's what happens. So if you had the machines out there doing that kind of thing, they're not going to do that. Machines aren't going to do that. They're going to get in line. And then what do you care? Because you're just sitting back doing nothing anyway. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain if the machines want to sit in the line. I don't know. Once the machines get good enough, maybe we can start watching movies. You might watch watching something. The Orville. Who knows what you're watching on your TV, or even reading a book or whatever. Just having a conversation. Work-life balance could be adjusted. That's another plus. I mean, so maybe you're looking at the original idea was self-driving cars might be good for the environment. What's work-life balance have to do with that? Well, I don't know. I mean, I could try and figure that out. Work-life balance. Maybe I can now I'm working more because I don't have to worry about the congestion. I'm actually doing stuff. I might be working on my laptop in the car while I'm traveling. I mean, kind of like I did on the subway. I used to live out in Washington, D.C. We took the sub. I did all kinds of work on the subway. I mean, I could do that, get more money, buy one of those robot lawnmowers. Those things look dangerous to me. But nevertheless, a robot lawnmower, and those things are usually electric. So my work-life balance could contribute to a better environment because now I'm using robots to mow my lawn. I mean, who knows? I mean, you can stretch that any way you want, like a bunch of dough. But nevertheless, you can do those kinds of things. So what are the cons? I mean, there has to be. It can't all be good. Can't all be roses. The accidents that we have today with these self-driving cars, right, are typically happening because, once again, I started out the pros with less fatigue. The accidents that we're having today are because of fatigue with the self-driving cars, because our technology it's new, right? I mean, that's another con. The technology isn't really up to snuff today yet, and 2020, okay? So maybe it'll get better. I'm sure it will get better. But nevertheless, it's not that way today. So people they should be watching where they're going. Watch the robots do the things that they do. They're falling asleep. They're asleep behind the wheel because the cars drive me around. Does all kinds of crazy things. Slamming into buildings. Might even run people over. They may be killing people. So that is the con, right? But nevertheless, I just listed out a bunch of pros, which kind of outnumbered the cons. So my belief is that self-driving cars are going to be good. To me, it's just numbers in my small little perspective. And then, so that was my belief that self-driving cars are good. And then I have faith. Okay? That other word, faith. I have faith that the scientists and engineers will figure out the technology such that it will truly make my idea, the original premise, that self-driving cars might be good for the economy or environment. Yeah. I have faith that science and engineering will figure that out. And that's what those words are about. Okay? Now, I just used self-driving cars, but there are all kinds of things. I could have an idea that, I don't know, aliens exist. Right? Now, a while ago, okay, so this, again, I've quoted the date a couple times here, 2020. Take 30 years back, so like 1990, right? I mean, people say, I believe that they're aliens. I mean, what do you have here? What are you talking about, Roswell? I mean, come on now, aliens. Well, here's what I can say. We have evidence nowadays. I mean, there are high-level people talking about stuff. We have military pilots saying that they're seeing things in the sky. Let me tell you something about military pilots. If a military pilot says, I see something in the sky and I can't identify it, you better believe them. You understand? Because those are people who are trained for that. Those people who are trained to combat environments with things that are moving, faster than sound. They better be able to identify something in the sky. Now, if they say they have identified something that is simply unidentified, it's an unidentified flying object, yeah, then it is. Okay? That's going to be true. That's what that is. So I don't know where the belief comes in after that. I just say that things are fascinating. Things are fascinating indeed. We shall have to see.